I'm 91 years old, and I've been sitting with these thoughts for a long time. Not regrets exactly, but realizations, the kind that come when you've lived long enough to see the full arc of a life. And I keep thinking, if I could talk to my younger self, what would I say? Not what I'd do differently, that's pointless, but what I'd explain, what I'd make her understand before it was too late to actually matter. My name is Mary Dawson, and on this channel, I talk about what matters when you've lived long enough to know the difference between what looks important and what actually is. If you want to hear what 91 years of living has taught me, subscribe, because this is the wisdom that comes too late for most people. Maybe not for you. Today, I'm going to give you 7 truths, not from books, not from anyone else's philosophy, from my life, from my actual choices and my actual regrets and my actual learning. And I'm going to tell you plainly, some of this will sting, because it's supposed to. Truth number 1, the life you're waiting for is the one you're living right now, and you're wasting it. I spent 30 years as a mother telling myself, when the children are grown, then I'll have time. When they were in primary school, I couldn't paint, couldn't read in peace, couldn't sit in the garden without someone needing something from me. I remember thinking very clearly, just get through these years, just manage these years, then I'll have my life back. The children grew, and I thought, when they finish secondary school, then things will calm down. Then it was when they go to university. Then when they get married and move out. Then when the grandchildren are old enough that I can actually enjoy them without being completely exhausted. And somewhere in that waiting, I lived an entire life. Not the life I was waiting for, the life I was actually living. The one where my children needed me, where James was still here, where I had energy and time and possibility. But I was too busy waiting for a better version to notice. I see young women now, mothers. They say the same thing I said. When the children are older, then I'll. When I get promoted, then I'll. When I have enough money, then I'll. When I lose the weight, then I'll. When I meet the right person, then I'll. And I want to shake them. I want to say, the life you're waiting for is happening right now, not someday, not when circumstances are perfect, not when you're finally ready. Now. This difficult, messy, imperfect moment. This is the only life you get. James used to say to me, Mary, you're always thinking about tomorrow. You're missing today. And I'd get annoyed with him. I'd say, we have to plan. We have to think ahead. But he was right. I was missing today. I was missing the way he looked at me when I laughed. I was missing the small conversations in the kitchen. I was missing the ordinary moments that turn out to be the only moments that actually mattered. He died when I was 67. I thought I was old then. Now I'm 91, and I would give anything, literally anything, to be 67 again with him in the kitchen and to pay attention this time. Don't wait. Whatever you're waiting for, it's not worth the life you're missing right now. Truth number 2, you can have everything and still feel empty if you haven't got real connection. My friend Helen was brilliant, beautiful, successful in ways that made people envious. She had the career, the impressive house, the accomplishments that looked good on a resume and sounded impressive at dinner parties. But she never married, never had children, never let anyone close enough to actually know her. She kept people at a distance, said it was easier that way. safer. I tried for years to get close to her, but there was always a wall, always a reason she couldn't stay for tea, always some professional obligation that took priority. I watched her build this fortress of achievement, brick by brick, award by award, accomplishment by accomplishment, and I watched her get lonelier inside it. By the time she was in her 70s, all that success felt like dust to her. She told me that once over the phone. "Helen," I said, "you've done remarkable things." "Have I?" she said. "I have a house full of things nobody will want, a career nobody will remember, and I'm so lonely I can barely stand it." She died at 83, in that house she'd worked so hard to buy, alone. And all her accomplishments sat there like decorations that nobody cared about. Here's what I learned from Helen. You can win at life in every measurable way and still lose at actually living. Because living isn't about what you accomplish, it's about who you let in while you're accomplishing it. It's about the people who know you, really know you, the ones who love you not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you are. The happiest people I've known haven't been the richest or the most successful. They've been the ones who showed up, who called their friends, who sat on front porches and talked about nothing important, who held their grandchildren even when they had other things to do, who said, "I love you" out loud instead of assuming people knew, who made time for connection because they understood that connection is what makes a life worth living. Everything else, the career, the house, the accomplishments, that's just decoration. Connection is the actual building. Do you also feel like you're building something impressive but empty? Tell me in the comments. Because there are so many of us doing this. Truth number 3. Time is not something you have. It's something you're spending right now, and you don't get to pause it. When James was in the hospital, I kept thinking, if he gets better, I'll spend more time with him. We'll travel. We'll sit in the garden without rushing. We'll have those conversations we've been putting off. I had all these plans, detailed plans, for the time we'd have when he recovered. He didn't recover. He died on a Tuesday evening in March, very peacefully, in his sleep. And I would have given literally anything to have spent more time with him. Not someday, not when circumstances were perfect, right then, as he was, where he was. I was 67. I thought I was old then. I thought I had plenty of time left. Now I'm 91, and I'd give almost anything to be 67 again, with him still breathing in the next room. Time is the only real currency you have, and most people spend it like it's infinite. They spend it on worry about things that never happen. They spend it on resentment about things they can't change. They spend it on waiting for perfect moments that never arrive. And they spend almost none of it on the people they love. The people I know who are living well, who aren't drowning in regret, they figured this out early, really understood it, not intellectually, in their bones, and they spent their time accordingly, on people, on experiences, on being present, not on productivity, not on achievement, not on things that looked good but felt empty. I have a friend named Patricia. She's 90 now. When she was young, she made a choice that seemed strange to everyone. She left a very successful career to have more time with her children. People thought she was crazy. She had opportunities. She was throwing them away. But she said, "I'll have time for career later. I'll only have time with my children now." At 90, Patricia is surrounded by people who love her. She has memories of actual presence, of actually being there. And she has never, not once, expressed regret about that choice. The clock is ticking right now. That's not poetic. That's literal. And at 91, I can tell you, the people who understood this early, who spent their time on connection instead of climbing, they're the ones who ended up with actual lives worth living. Truth number 4. What you do for money is not what you'll be remembered for. I worked. All my life, I worked. Raised 3 children, managed a house, did my duty. And I was competent, reliable, the kind of person you could count on. But I was also often absent, distracted, thinking about the next task instead of being present for the person in front of me. I used to think my job mattered so much, that my contribution was significant, that my work was important. Now I'm retired, and nobody from those years calls me. Nobody remembers me. The organization went on without me like I'd never been there. Everything I worked for has been replaced or forgotten or given to someone else. What do people remember? Elizabeth remembers that I made her favorite cake on her birthday, not that I worked late to pay for it. Tom remembers that I took him to the park on a Saturday, even though I was exhausted, not that I earned money. My grandchildren remember my stories, my laugh, the way I really listened to them. Not one single thing I accomplished at work. I spent decades thinking my worth was measured in productivity, in how much I did, in my competence, in my reliability. But the things that actually made a life, the conversations, the presence, the love, those couldn't be measured in work hours. I wish someone had told me that sooner, that you don't get to the end of your life and think, "I'm so glad I spent all that time working." You think about the moments you missed, the people you didn't fully see, the conversations you were too tired to have. Work pays the bills. That's important. Pay your bills. Support your family. But don't confuse paying bills with building a life. And don't wait until you're old to realize the difference. Truth number 5. Carrying resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die from it. I had a friend named Dorothy. We were close for many years. Then there was a falling out over something I honestly cannot remember now. Something stupid. Something that felt huge at the time. We didn't speak for a decade, an entire decade. During those years, I carried that resentment like a heavy coat. Every time I saw her name, my jaw would tighten. Every time someone mentioned her, I'd feel this flash of anger. And for what? She wasn't suffering. I was. I was the one carrying the weight. I forgave my mother years ago. She was a difficult woman, cold when she was stressed, which was most of the time. I carried anger about how she raised me for decades. I thought forgiving her meant saying what she did was acceptable. It doesn't mean that. Forgiving her meant I stopped letting her live rent-free in my head. When I finally did it, nothing changed about what she'd done, but everything changed about what I was carrying. I got lighter. I got free. The resentment I held on to, it never hurt her. It only hurt me. And I wasted years of my actual limited life being angry about something that was already in the past. Truth number 6. The only way to actually feel alive is to give something away. I spent years thinking self-care meant protecting my energy, not saying yes to too many things, keeping my cup full. And yes, that matters. You can't pour from empty. But I also kept my cup locked away. The happiest days of my life aren't the ones where I rested. They're the ones where I showed up for someone, where I tutored the neighbor boy, where I listened to a friend for hours, where I made something for someone else, where I was needed. Earl was a friend. He lived to be 92, and for the last 15 years of his life, all he wanted was to sit with people, to listen, to be there. He said to me once, "Mabel, I spent 60 years trying to be somebody. Now I'm just trying to be here." That's where happiness lives, in showing up, in being present, in giving your attention, your time, your actual self to someone else. Truth number 7, you are already enough. You don't have to earn that. I spent too many years thinking I had to prove something, had to be more, do more, achieve more, before I was allowed to feel okay about being me. At 91, I can tell you plainly, that was the greatest waste of my time. Not the late nights working, not the mistakes I made. The waste was believing I wasn't enough. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not a project that needs to be completed before you're allowed to have peace. You're a human being, and that's extraordinary. Stop running long enough to feel that just once. Thank you for staying until here, for listening to what 91 years has taught me. If you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Tell me in the comments what truth hit you hardest, because we all need reminders of what actually matters. Write in the comments, "I'm already enough." Not for me, for you. To remind yourself that it's true. See you soon, and remember, the life you're waiting for is the one you're living right now. Stop waiting. Start paying attention.